70, religion in the curriculum. There were no changes after the first read.
Okay, we're going to go with Mrs.
Mr.
Luker. Oh, all right, Mr. Carter, go ahead.
Yeah, as the speaker said, it said no employee-led devotion or exercise. He brought a valid point about a volunteer coming in and leading something. Do we have anywhere in policy, or is that something, is this strictly verbiage from law, or Mr. Gabriel may can help us out with that?
And actually, the statute that's referenced there does make a reference to no teacher may, which is why you ended up with no employee.
We just made it a little broader so that it included non-instructional staff as well.
Yeah, okay. But to the speaker's point about, a volunteer doing a devotional lead or something of that nature, what do we have anything in policy to prevent that, or is that allowed by policy, or?
No, it's not allowed, but we don't have anything in policy that addresses specifically volunteers.
I think what you can do, a couple of choices. You can have employee and or volunteer-led, assuming that the volunteer is in some position of authority, such as a coach, whatever, that's not paid. But the whole premise initially was what constitutes teaching of religion in the curriculum.
Correct.
And the purpose
The
purpose, therefore, was that if you're in a classroom, you're in an event that is of a curricular nature, whether it be extracurricular or otherwise, there should be no devotional exercises, which is presumed to be some sort of prayer, ritualized activity, things of that sort that would then be a violation of the First Amendment. So here's your two choices. You can remove employee-led and leave it as no devotional, or you can put no employee-led and or volunteer, employee and or volunteer-led devotional exercises. We've covered it just in case you are concerned with that issue.
Yeah, I'm okay with employee-led, because my concern also is, on the flip side of that, is that could be overreaching to FCA and meet you at the poll and things of that nature.
Right,
so
that would be accurate, because that was the initial premise, to make sure that as a district, a employee of the district would not be involved in undertaking such an activity to the detriment of district by imposing some sort of devotional display or whatever, which could create a First Amendment problem. If you have a particular, if you have an extracurricular club that is not, however, instructional or whatever, we have some clubs like that, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and so on, are separate from the curriculum. They can do that in terms of what they are allowed to do under the Equal Access Law, which is separate and apart from what is sought here. So I think the intent was to make sure that it was involving a paid employee, teacher otherwise, guest teacher, so on, who would create a difficulty. So those are your two choices.
As per the law, we have to have something in there, and I think employee-led covers it also. All right, thank you, Mr. Fishbane, Mr. Gabriel, appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Anything else on that, Mr. Carter?
That's all, thank you.
Okay, Mrs. Lucarelli.
Okay, I was under the impression that the reason why we had employee-led was because students could lead. So we were specifying no employee-led because...
Under the law, if a student, for example, walks down the hallway in between classes and is with friends and says, hey, I want to read a passage from the Bible, how about if you stop and we'll just do it together, they can do that.
Correct.
And they teach it, but that is outside of the classroom curricular framework, you see.
Right.
So the concern really is, if you look at the title of the policy, it's religion in the curriculum. And so the concepts then would flow from there.
Okay, so then I'm unclear, though, how Fellowship of Christian Athletes isn't going to be harmed by this, because it says or extracurricular activity, and sometimes our FCA leaders are also employees. So are we going to end up in a...
Well, extracurricular activity is not the same as that club, for example. It could be some activity that is a school-sponsored band or something of that sort,
Okay.
that would then be immediately imputed to the district.
So I understand what you're saying, but I think I do agree that just leaving it employee-led and not including volunteer, I just don't want us to be able
Well,
to.
no, because this is religion in the curriculum, so it would have to be someone who's an employee or a guest teacher. So that's
Still an
what, I think
employee,
that's
yeah,
the,
okay.
that's what makes it a clear distinction.
And I
It's the
think-
curriculum.
I think you're correct, Madam Chair. on
Okay.
that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments related to this? I know there was a comment about the last paragraph about no student shall be exempted from attendance in a required course of study on the grounds that the instruction therein interferes with the free exercise of his or her religion. Is that all part of the statute that's?
Right, and it's also, there are no opt-outs, for example. We've had years of contacting the state and so on where some parents, because of their religious commitments, didn't want a student to be in a biology class without a discussion for creationism, for example. State said, no, can't do that. So that's why that is the way it is. And to the comment about the Bible, my understanding of what the Department of Education was doing within the context of the statute was to include both testaments as part of a literature study and not a devotional study.
Thank you. Mrs. Lucarelli?
Sorry, just to get back to the concern about volunteers coming in and, advancing any particular religion. We don't have that anywhere in any of our policies. Would it fit somewhere if?
Well, you could try to create a separate policy related to extracurricular and volunteer activity to clarify, but that would probably be more in the nature of an AP that could clarify from this or distinguish between what is here in a curriculum as opposed to what is not.
Okay.
So, it's within, I believe, the province of the superintendent at that point to say, if we need some clarity, let's create an AP that distinguishes between the two areas.
With regards to it being within the curriculum, a volunteer would be under the supervision of the teacher in that classroom anyway, correct, John?
Yes.
So,
I'm just trying to address some of the concerns if people are concerned that there's going to be somebody else coming into a school that's going to be a volunteer or some other adult who was granted access to the school and preaching.
You would have
Do
to
we
instruct that person to cease and desist,
Okay.
or then tell the parent or whatever, if that's a representative, that they cannot continue on unless they work within the system.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments on this one? All right. Is there a motion to approve School Board Policy 2270?
Motion approved.
I second.
All right, all in favor of the policy, state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously.